It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. I will be bringing you said commentary pertaining to Robert Sylvester Kelly. The state of New York has indicted him on charges of racketeering and other felonious charges, and I will be bringing you the said sources, which will be the insider for both sets of information. Thanks for joining me. This information I'm going to bring you is pertaining to suing someone for transmitting a venereal disease to you and what your rights are and which states you can file charges for receiving a venereal disease from a said person. Thank you so much for joining me. You can sue someone for giving you herpes. The legal mechanism for this would be to bring a personal injury lawsuit. If the transmission came from non-consensual sex, it can be a civil battery. It can be a negligence claim. Excuse me. If the infected person lied about having an STD or should have known about the infection but did not use due care to avoid transmitting it. All of these lawsuits would seek financial compensation. The compensation would be to cover the losses associated with the victim's disease, such as medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. A lawsuit can also hold the person who infected you accountable for his or her actions. Can I sue for contracting herpes during consensual sex? Yes. You can file a personal injury lawsuit against someone who infected you with herpes. You can sue even if the sex was consensual. The lawsuit would claim that the transmitter was negligent. He or she could have prevented the transmission of their herpes but failed to do so. You can hold someone liable for giving you herpes if you can show that he or she had herpes, did not disclose their condition to you, did nothing to prevent its transmission, and could reasonably foresee the harm that it could cause. A sexual partner can be held liable even if they do not think they are contagious. He or she does not even need actual knowledge that they are infected. They do not need to know they are carrying herpes. If they reasonably should have known that they had herpes, they can be liable for transmitting it. Okay. This applies to transmitters who know they are infected but lie about it. These transmitters may also face criminal liability. They could be charged with the crime of willful exposure to an STD. They could be fined and go to jail in addition to getting sued by the victim they exposed. What if the sex was not consensual? If you got herpes during a non-consensual sex, you can sue for civil battery. To hold someone liable for battery after transmitting herpes, you have to show that 1. The defendant touched you with the intent to harm. 2. You did not consent to the contact. And 3. You were harmed by the defendant's conduct. These defendants can also face criminal charges. They can be accused of willful exposure. They can also face charges of the non-consensual sex. They can be accused of sexual assault or rape. Thank you so much, Green Bee 52s. Thank you so much. Can spouses be liable? A spouse can be held liable for infecting his or her spouse with herpes. Spouses are not immune from liability for transmitting an STD. Let me repeat. Spouses are not immune from liability for transmitting an STD. What compensation can I recover? If successful, the lawsuit can recover compensation for your losses. This includes medical bills, anticipated future medical expenses, any wages lost from your recovery, physical pain from the condition, mental suffering and emotional distress from having herpes, embarrassment, and damage to your reputation. You can also recover other losses if they stem from the transmission. Where would that compensation come from? In most cases, the transmitter would be held personally liable. This means they would pay the compensation out of their own pocket. Victims in these cases are unlikely to recover full compensation. Most people who transmit herpes cannot afford the cost of a court judgment. In some cases, though, the transmitter, homeowners insurance will provide coverage. Some homeowners insurance, interesting, never heard this. Policies have broad liability provisions. These are meant to cover damages that are accidentally inflicted by the policyholder. They could extend to the transmission of an STD, including herpes. Is it a crime? Intentionally transmitting an STD is a crime in many states. A conviction of one of these offenses could be used as evidence in personal injury case. California is a state that makes intentionally transmitting an STD a crime. California Health and Safety Code 120290HS makes it illegal to transmit infectious diseases that includes STDs like HIV, AIDS, chlamydia, or herpes. Violations are misdemeanors. They come up with 6 months in jail and or $1,000 in fines. Victims can use a criminal conviction as evidence in their personal injury lawsuit. The conviction proves that the defendant willfully transmitted herpes. This can be used to support a civil lawsuit. And legal references are Doe versus Roe, 218 Cal App 3D 1538, 1990. Doe versus Roe, Supra. John B. versus Superior Court 137 P3D 153, 2006. C. California Civil Jury Instructions, CACI 1300, and John B. versus Superior Court, Supra. And this information comes from a Neil Schaus, a former Los Angeles prosecutor. And he graduated with honors at UC Berkeley and Harvard Law School and said such information. This is by SchausLaw.com if you need verification for a source. So California holds you accountable if indeed you pass a venereal disease such as herpes. You can be sued, and the person can also sue your homeowner's insurance of said monetary gain. That is the said information. I brought you this information just in case some of you were curious because of the commentary I'm about to bring you pertaining to Robert Sylvester Kelly. As most of you know, he is in a Brooklyn facility and attending court in Brooklyn, New York, and the state of New York is bringing forth federal charges of racketeering and other felonious behavior pertaining to his said case. And now we'll bring you more information pertaining to the events that have taken place since yesterday and today in court in New York. Thank you all so much for joining me, and thank you for the super chat. God bless you. If you want to donate to the channel, $BigAndrew129 Cash App. Thank you. Okay. Insider will be the source for both information. The judge in R. Kelly's sexual abuse trial wants potential jurors to put aside their feelings on the hashtag MeToo movement. The judge overseeing R. Kelly's case wants potential jurors to put their feelings on hashtag MeToo aside. Prosecutors accused Kelly and people he employed of recruiting women and girls for the singer to have sex with and abuse. One woman who said she believed it's uncommon for women to lie about abuse remains in the jury pool. The judge overseeing R. Kelly's sex trafficking trial wants jurors to be able to put aside their thoughts on the hashtag MeToo movement while hearing evidence in the case. On Tuesday, the second day of jury selection in federal court in Brooklyn, a woman in the jury pool said that she tends to believe women who accuse men of sexual abuse. Statistically, she told Judge Ann Donnelly, women don't often report sexual assault that didn't happen. Donnelly asked the woman who works in the theater and indicated she had friends who were taken advantage of by men who had more clout, quote unquote, if she'd be able to disregard those feelings and remain impartial in the case. The woman said she could, and she remains in the jury pool. The trial of R. Kelly, whose real name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, will involve extensive testimony and evidence related to sexual abuse. Federal prosecutors in Brooklyn have accused Kelly and people he employed of running a criminal enterprise where they recruited women and girls for the singer to have sex with and abuse, making pornographic videos out of some of those experiences. Kelly has pled not guilty to all the charges against him. A man in the jury pool who was also questioned Tuesday noted his tendency to believe that women are frequently sexually abused. It's hard to meet any woman who hasn't been a victim of some sort of harassment, the man who worked in IT told the court. The man said he used to be a fan of Kelly's music, but the allegations of sexual violence against the entertainer had since turned him off. You don't know what the inspiration was, he said. The man said he won't let his beliefs impact his ability to be impartial in the case, and he remains in the jury pool. Narrowing the jury pool. Jury selection in the trial, which is expected to last about 1 month, kicked off Monday. Donnelly questioned 38 jurors, dismissing 13 of them. One woman who said she believes most women don't lie about sexual abuse was dismissed from the jury pool Monday. Another woman who said an experience she had as a child would make it difficult to hear evidence in R. Kelly's case was excused. On Tuesday, Donnelly continued to question potential jurors about their ability to be impartial when hearing the case. By the end of the day, the court had a pool of 50 qualified potential jurors. Attorneys on Wednesday will begin to use their pre-imperatory challenges to weed out potential jurors they believe might not be favorable to their side. The judge hopes to have 12 jurors and at least 6 alternates to hear the case. Opening statements are scheduled for August 18th. If you are a survivor of sexual assault, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE 4673 or visit their website to receive confidential support. That is the said information by Insider. So as you see, one person, lady, didn't feel she could be impartial. She was removed. One guy mentioned, hey, most women have been abused, still in the jury pool. And one lady basically said, hey, women don't often report sexual assault. That didn't happen. Everyone is entitled to his or her opinion. And as I've stated before, most people base their opinions on their own personal experiences, things that they have gone through, things that they have witnessed, things they've been a party to. And that's where we form our opinions and our judgments. And I brought you that first commentary because, as I state, the commentary that I'm about to bring to you is pertaining to Robert Kelly allegedly passing an STD to some of the women and girls that he had sexual relationships with. So I decided to bring you said information pertaining to, can you file a lawsuit damages against a said person that passes you herpes, HIV, chlamydia, said diseases. In some states, it is a crime. California is one of those said states that you can bring forth a suit and damages for being inflicted with herpes, HIV, AIDS, chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, and said forth. Thank you so much for joining me. The Insider was the source for that information. I will now bring you source number 2, which is also the Insider. Thank you for joining me. R. Kelly's trial begins with lawyers asking to dismiss charges that the singer knowingly gave women herpes and a prospective juror mistaking him for cartoonist R. Crumb. Jury selection for R. Kelly's sex trafficking trial began Monday in federal court in Brooklyn. Lawyers asked the judge to dismiss charges related to the singer giving accusers herpes, saying it's not against the law. One prospective juror said he thought this whole thing was actually about the cartoonist, R. Crumb. I don't know if that's just a sly comment. He's trying to be funny, but you're in federal court. You might want to act accordingly, sir. Anyway, as far as this, the lawyer's saying it's not against the law. Well, as I brought you commentary just now, it is against the law to pass diseases in certain states. So I don't know if New York has the law that says somebody can sue you or not. And that's what's going to be determined. What are the laws in New York pertaining to being infected with the disease and bringing forth a suit and charges against the said parties, and or also proving, and that's going to also be a problem, proving that Robert Kelly gave you the disease in the state of New York and or other states. That's said information. Jury selection began on Monday in R. Kelly's federal sex trafficking trial in Brooklyn, New York. Even as the R&B singer's lawyers asked the judge to dismiss charges related to him giving herpes to some of his accusers. In a filing on Monday morning, lawyers for Kelly, whose real name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, asked the judge to strike down several of the 9 indictments filed against him. The attorneys, Thomas A. Farinella and Nicole Blank Becker, said that prosecutors were wrong in bringing several sex trafficking charges. They also said the singer should not have been charged with breaking New York law when he was accused of giving 2 people herpes. Farinella and Becker argued the relevant law says that transmitting an acute bacterial venereal disease, such as syphilis or gonorrhea, would be considered a misdemeanor, but that giving someone viral diseases such as herpes would not. Let me read that again. Farinella and Becker, these are the attorneys for Robert, argued the relevant law says that transmitting an acute bacterial venereal disease such as syphilis or gonorrhea would be considered a misdemeanor, but that giving someone viral diseases such as herpes would not. Okay, interesting. Judge Ann Donnelly said she would give prosecutors several days to respond to the motion before making a decision on it. Several indictments have been brought since Kelly was first arrested and charged in June 2019. Federal prosecutors in Brooklyn accused Kelly and people he employed of recruiting girls for him to have sex with and abuse and of making pornographic videos out of some of those experiences. Prosecutors referred to 5 victims in the indictments under pseudonym Jane Doe, 3 of whom were underage when Kelly is accused of abusing them. The prosecutors also accused Kelly of falsifying identification documents for the singer Aaliyah, referred to as Jane Doe number 1. She was 15 years old so that he could legally marry her. Aaliyah died in 2001. Kelly has pled not guilty to all the charges against him. He appeared in court on Monday in a blue sharkskin suit, a blue shirt, bright blue tie, and sat alongside his 4 attorneys. He, the attorneys, and the judge were all unmasked. Opening statements are scheduled to begin on August 18th, and the trial, which has been delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic, is expected to last for 4 weeks. Kelly faces a separate set of federal sex trafficking charges in Chicago, as well as state-level sex-related charges in Illinois and Minnesota. So the charges in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, and Minnesota are state-related. So this case here takes precedence because it is a federal charges. So this is why this case in Brooklyn is first on the docket and the first trial for R. Kelly to stand trial. Federal charges are first, state are second. What will happen with the other 2 cities? Will they follow suit to still pursue Robert after a verdict has been rendered and possibly a guilty verdict? Will they still ride the ride to pursue him, or will they falter? We will see. I will now bring you information pertaining to the jurors. A parade of colorful jurors. Donnelly and the attorneys will select 18 jurors for the trial. 12 will deliberate and 6 will serve as alternates. The judge first addressed prospective jurors in a larger courtroom, normally reserved for naturalization ceremonies because of COVID-19 restrictions. No one other than the judge, attorneys, jurors, court staff, and Kelly himself was permitted in the room. Journalists watched the proceedings through a wide-angle video feed that made it hard to see anyone's expression. The courtroom sketch artist Jane Rosenberg peered over the wall, separating the gallery and the well to see the details of the video screen as she illustrated them. Donnelly addressed the prospective jurors only by the jury numbers they were given because of the media attention to the trial. Donnelly also forbade jurors from reading any news coverage of the case and said federal marshals would transport them to and from the courthouse for the duration of the trial. Prospective jurors were then brought one at a time into a separate room where Donnelly quizzed them about their ability to be fair in the case. She also asked each about their hobbies, their jobs. A mechanical engineering student hoped to use his degree to develop roller coasters, while an aspiring fashion illustrator answered only YouTube when asked about his hobbies. Oh, mercy. One of the men in the jury pool said he was a member of the Association of Old Crows, a professional group for defense contractors who specialize in electronic warfare. Another man who said he liked to crochet and had planned a trip to Germany to visit his boyfriend, and he wasn't too familiar with R. Kelly and thought the trial was about Robert Crumb, the 77-year-old cartoonist who signs his work as R. Crumb. If I believe that or not. Anyway, one of the accusers in the prosecutor's case is a man. Donnelly asked the prospective jurors whether evidence regarding sexual conduct between people of the same sex would impair their fairness. All of them said that the evidence wouldn't influence their ability to be impartial. Several people in the jury pool said they had been victims of sexual assault. Donnelly dismissed one who said the experience she had as a child would make it difficult to hear evidence in the case. The judge questioned 38 prospective jurors on Monday. 13 were dismissed based on their answers to some of the questions. The court is looking to narrow the jury pool to 40 before attorneys use their challenges. Jury selection is scheduled to resume Tuesday, 9:30 a.m., which we already know Tuesday has already come and gone. So we're now approaching Wednesday, day 3. Okay, Once again, if you are a survivor of sexual assault, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE 4673 or visit their website to receive confidential support. Thank you all for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you so much. The description is in this said video and all of my videos. I brought you two articles. Both are by the Insider. The first article was basically saying that the lawyer does not want people to listen to anything. Don't consider the Me Too movement. Just hear the evidence that is brought forth in the said trial pertaining to Robert Kelly. This information is also pertaining to his lawyers, warning certain charges pertaining to Robert giving women herpes allegedly to be dismissed. Let's talk about that. First of all, most people have heard of Robert Kelly. They may not have listened to his music, but they've heard something pertaining to the allegations brought forth by him in said information, articles, As I brought you the first information pertaining to can you sue a person for giving you a venereal disease, it is stated in some states, yes, you can sue for monetary gain, medical bills, expenses, Also, you can sue a person's homeowner's insurance if indeed he or she has homeowner's insurance. I didn't even know that, but that is what's been said in my commentary in the first set of information. You also can be sued if you didn't know you have a disease. You didn't know you had it, you currently have it, which is, however, as most of you know, herpes does not have a cure, but there is medicine that can be provided to you to help with the symptoms of the disease. So now you know that even if you don't know you have it, you still can be sued. Certain states, it is illegal to transmit the disease, chlamydia, HIV, and AIDS, gonorrhea, syphilis. So now you know. California is the state that says you can be sued, without a doubt, for passing herpes. His attorneys want those said charges dropped. Why? Why do these people feel that that is not important? So now you're devaluing the women. You are devaluing them to basically say, well, one, we don't believe the allegations that you have brought forth pertaining to what he did to you allegedly. And now, oh, by the way, he's giving you a venereal disease. That ain't important either. So now that's a double jab to the women who actually have been abused, raped by Robert Kelly, especially if you were underage and you contracted a disease. Triple threat. One, he had no business pursuing a child. Two, taking videos of a child with other sexual partners and giving the said child a venereal disease. Same thing with an adult. You don't have the right to record anyone without their knowledge. Passing in some states. And as I state, everything is up for interpretation. A lot of these allegations brought forward pertaining to Robert Kelly are older crimes. You can believe or disbelieve the accusations against Robert Kelly. But most of these charges, I believe, are stemming from people who were underage. And as most of you know, who are following the content pertaining to my channel and what's out there in the general public pertaining to Robert Sylvester Kelly, he is now being accused of raping boys. So you know that in most states, it is a crime to participate in sexual activity of any minor child under the age of 18. Some states have a stipulation of 16, 17 that they can be considered consensual. They can consent for themselves. But then other states say the child has to be over the age of 18 to be deemed an adult. So now we're factoring in Robert Kelly is being accused of basically raping a boy, taping the boy, videotaping the boy in sexual acts with other participants, children, adults, which is however, and with another boy. Now, mind you, the second boy, it is being alleged that Robert Kelly had sex with him once he became an adult, which he was allegedly, I think, 17, 18. So that means if Robert Kelly had sex with him years down the road, he would have been an adult. But nonetheless, you cannot film children engaging in sexual activity. So therefore, if there's anyone watching any type of pornographic material with underage children, you are now committing a crime. So you may engage in watching porn, that is your choice. But you do not know that some of the porn that you may be watching has underage children in the said videos. So if indeed you are currently watching videos, you need to be leery that perhaps you are watching pornographic material with children, and that is a crime. To pass it, have it on your phone, device, video, DVD, CD, whatsoever, send it to someone's device, share it, pictures, you're now committing a crime. And those are also the said crimes against Robert Kelly. He has someone download the material so he could watch it for his own self-gratification. That is a crime if indeed a child was in the said videos. Him taping children, that is a crime. Passing it to you is a crime. You hiding the tape, CD, whatsoever, phone, it's a crime. A lady will be testifying against Robert Kelly that she downloaded material onto a phone for him. And now they have to prove if indeed those were children inside of the said video, which is the same mess that occurred back in 2002 when Robert secretly filmed women engaged in sex with him. One of those happened to be a 14-year-old minor at the time. And in that said video, yes, you can tell she was a child. She had the body of a child. It was obvious, and I will say that. But now we know that even if you watched it, you're committing a crime. If you had possession of the said tape, you're committing a crime because a child has now been verified as being inside of that said video. And I'm also wondering if that child, who is now an adult, will be a witness in one of the cases deriving out of Chicago, Illinois. When I get that information, I will bring that to you. But he is being accused of a slew of crimes, racketeering mainly out of the state of New York, passing the venereal disease herpes to two women in the state of New York. And we also have to use common sense that depending on when Robert Kelly contracted the disease himself and or was the host of the disease, any woman who got with him now has herpes. So when you start counting all the women that you are now seeing testifying that they have had relations with Robert Kelly unprotected, they are now willingly admitting to the general public that they carry the herpes disease. So that means any guy, man, who has come into their peripheral sexually, he now has contracted herpes. Imagine that. See, you didn't think about that. Kind of like when you go to the health department, there's a little stick figure at the top of the page, and it has a human at the top. And below are little figures going down, counting down to 63. Basically, what that flyer is saying, these are all the people you slept with last night. 62 people. You slept with one man or woman last night, but basically you slept with about 60 something people last night, especially if you are engaged in sexual activity with a very active person. It's probably 2 to 3 times more than 62. That is the said information coming from the insider that his lawyers are trying to dismiss charges of him transmitting herpes to women. And I believe they're saying that there are 2 women in the state of New York that has gotten the herpes disease from Robert Kelly. And as I state, when you look at all the women who have come forward to say that they have talked to him, dated him, had sex with him, you now know that 9 times out of 10, most of those said women have the virus. And as I state, when did Robert get the disease? How long has he had the disease? Did he get it as a young man, or When did he get the disease? And as I state, it will be a matter of trying to prove, did Robert Kelly give these said women the disease? But the interesting part will be, if indeed medically it can be proven that all the women who have brought forth allegations or bringing forth allegations against Robert Kelly do have the herpes disease, what would be the odds of these said women all having herpes and all bringing forth allegations against Robert Kelly? What would be the odds that these said women who do not know each other, never met one another, live in different parts of the United States, all admit to having sex with him, and all have herpes? I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for following the content. I will be bringing you a play-by-play of the court proceedings pertaining to the state versus R. Kelly. As I state, we are watching this unfold out into the general public, the media, social media, of course. There will be a lot of rumors and rhetorics. I'm wondering who are all the people who are going to be testifying, how many people will be eyewitnesses. As I state in my previous commentary, there is other information pertaining to bribery of a court official making IDs, an ID for Aaliyah, who is now deceased. She was 15 years old at the time, so that clerk person may have to come forward to testify, telling him or herself that they took a bribe, and or also face charges because they were working for the government at the time and doctored fake material in order to make an ID. There's also allegations of his manager or his PR person going to the clerk's office in Chicago and bribing someone to also give said documentation pertaining to R. Kelly's case, which is also a crime. And now will that person have to stand trial for releasing private documents, which is a crime? You see, for the almighty dollar, people will do all types of things. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will manipulate. And it's a sad situation to see a grown man who allegedly cannot read or write had the fortitude to use people to lure women to him, give them the number. He used these people to give this number to them. They followed suit, got wrapped up with him some form of fashion sexually. Then here comes the bribery. And now the disease, telling all your business to everyone to now know, is a very sad, sad situation because this man is talented and he has wasted his entire life in bedding children, bedding women, using women, manipulating people who work for them. They foolishly went along with doing felonious crimes, harassment, bribery, blackmail. Yes, these are all the said charges. Setting someone's car on fire. Already one of his cohorts has admitted this in court. Robert Kelly is vile, and he has had no regard for anyone. And despite the fact that he was abused as a child, that is no excuse for his behavior. A lot of people were abused as children, physically, mentally, sexually. But to go out later in life and exact those said crimes against a person, how is that right? If you see there's something wrong with you, you should go get help. Because in the end, God says at a certain age, you are to stand account for your ways, that you can no longer pretend that you have the ways of a child. You have got to think as an adult. You have to act as an adult. And if you have done wrong, you will have to stand account as an adult. Because in the end, you cannot continuously use the excuse what someone did to you as your reasoning for hurting and harming other people. And it is sad to know that this man cannot read nor write, but yet he had the fortitude to use these women to his advantage for his own sexual, selfish gratification. And now look at where he is. He has ended up in the circle of Bill Cosby, Weinstein, Epstein, and a slew of other men, well known, not so well known. And then you also know the issue with Mr. Cuomo. It is said now that he has resigned as the governor of New York, same state. Accused also of sexual harassment and groping of aides and other women. It's best to keep your hands to yourself. And anyone can be lured into a dire situation. It happens every day. You have men who rape women, drug women, put things in their drinks, do all type of felonious things to them behind closed doors, leave them stranded to fend for themselves. You have men who rape their own wives, sexually assault their wives, and don't think it's a crime because they're legally married to them. Dating a woman and thinks it's okay because he's dating her. Pursuing children knowing it is wrong. Choosing an age that they think is fitting to pursue a child because she looks like an adult, acts like an adult, so what? But the law says she or he is not 18, so it is a crime. And it has always been said in these past commentary surviving R. Kelly that R. Kelly is bisexual. And I think a lot of people do not want to accept the fact that their hero, their R&B artist, is a menace, a sadist, and also bisexual. But you will hear commentary in the said charges against him that he willingly had sex with underage children, female and male, videotaped them having sex, luring them all into group sex. He did this. So you see, you don't know people. And I think it's time for people to realize that everybody is not your friend. Everybody is not your hero. Because if you believe in the scripture, God tells you to not put your faith in man because he will surely disappoint you. $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. If you would like to donate to the channel, thank you for joining me. I will be bringing you play-by-play commentary pertaining to Robert Sylvester Kelly. He is now going to court in Brooklyn, New York for said charges. And I will bring you the information as I get it. I want to thank you all for joining me. God bless all of you. Stay safe this week. And if you see something, say something. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you.